Based on the 1975 James Clavell novel, Shogun, which follows John Blackthorne, this 10-part limited series stars Hiroyuki Sanada, who is also one of the creators, Cosmo Jarvis and Anna Sawai. Blackthorne, an English pilot major from the 17th century, gets lost off the coast of Japan, is taken prisoner by samurai, forced to adapt to Japanese culture, and finds himself in the middle of a political struggle between those vying for the coveted title of military ruler or shogun, which includes Lord Yoshi Taranaka. Michaela, Clavell's daughter, and Justin Marks and Rachel Kondo, who co-wrote the first 2 episodes, are among the executive producers. Let's go over everything you need to about the source material for this larger-than-life endeavor, including some unexpected connections to actual historical individuals, before you get ready for this story of sailors, soldiers, and a hunger for power. Shogun, the 3rd book in Clavell's 6-volume Asian saga, is a political thriller with a hint of covered romance that centers on the collision of Eastern and Western civilizations. But this isn't the first time Clavell's story has been on TV. More than 40 years ago, Shogun made his small screen debut. The first miniseries, which aired on NBC for 5 nights in September 1980, was a massive television event, similar to 1977's Roots, and it pulled out all the stops. With an appropriately epic ensemble, Shogun boasted an enormous production value and was produced on location in Japan, a rare opportunity at the time. With voiceovers by Orson Welles and starring Richard Chamberlain, John Rhys-Davies, Yoko Shimada, and Toshiro Mifune as Taranaka, Shogun would not only help popularize Japanese culture and continue to set the standard for the genre for the next 20 years and beyond. Frequently categorized as one of the most esteemed and watched miniseries ever, it also achieved great success in terms of accolades, with 14 nominations and 3 Primetime Emmy victories, in addition to multiple Golden Globes. 3 years later, Chamberlain starred as Father Ralph de Bricassart in another ratings-winning miniseries, The Thornbirds, 1983. Because of these 2 roles alone, Chamberlain gained the nickname King of the Miniseries. Even though the miniseries genre as we knew it ended in the early 2000s, as an 80s kid, my fellow Gen Xers, our parents, and I still harbor warm recollections of those times. The Shogun was amazing back then, and he still is. The events of Shogun begin in 1600, following the passing of a monarch known as Taiko, a title that refers to a retired regent. The 5 regents who are vying for influence are Lords Taranaka, Kiyama, Sugiyama, Ono, and Ishido. They jump into the power vacuum. Blackthorne, also referred to as a pilot or Injin, is thrust into unfamiliar territory where the samurai have a great deal of power and influence. As such, he is totally out of his element and needs to adjust fast, whether he likes it or not. His outspoken hostility of the Portuguese Jesuit clerics he meets with demonstrates his Protestant faith, which dates back to England's religious majority under Elizabeth I's reign from 1558 to 1603. The Sengoku period, also known as the Warring States period, comes to an end at the time of the events of Shogun, and was succeeded by the much more famous Edo period. It was dubbed after Tokyo's previous name and the first shogun of the era, Tokugawa Ieyasu, and was described as a time of internal peace, political stability, and economic growth. The shogunate possessed the majority of the land and was subordinate to the daimyo or feudal lords, with the martial class of samurai being one case below. The system was fixed, and movement among the 4 dominant social classes, warriors, farmers, artisans, and merchants, was forbidden. At the time, there was a lot of trade between Europe and Asia. Thus, Japan had a lot of engagement with the different ships that passed through its waterways, including those from Portugal and Spain. Furthermore, the impact of Roman Catholic missionaries who had been living in Japan for decades earlier had continued to convert many people from Buddhism and Shinto to Christianity. After the Shimabara Rebellion, 1637 to 1638, in which 40,000 peasants rebelled against the possibility of a religious ban, the Tokugawa shogunate succeeded, and the faith was officially outlawed due to the enormous growth of Christianity in the region. With such a large cast, Clavell based most of the characters in his book on historical figures, ranging from pilot majors to strongmen in positions of authority. William Adams, a navigator recognized for being the first Englishman to reach the coast of Japan, served as the model for John Blackthorne. Adams would stay in the nation, eventually working as a counselor to Tokugawa Ieyasu and receiving many honorifics, including the title of samurai. He would never go back to live in England, leaving behind a wife and kids. He would go on to marry a Japanese woman a second time and have more children. In 1620, Adams passed away. The shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu, who governed from 1603 to 1605 and abdicated in favor of his son Tokugawa Hidetada, served as the model for Lord Toranaga. 1616 would mark his death. Blackthorn's future love interest, Totomariko, is a samurai and Toranaga's go-to interpreter. She is modeled after Hosokawa Gracia, or Hosokawa Garasha, an aristocratic family member who converted to Christianity. In 1600, an enemy army attempted to take her hostage during a siege, and a family advisor would eventually assassinate her.